And I hope you don't fall asleep after that delicious food. But we've got a great set of slides we're going to go through here and talk about the history of this wonderful festival. I'm Bryan Biggs, I'm the Artistic Director here, and I was on the board of the Arab Arts Festival, or Arabic Arts Festival as it was then called, pretty much from the beginning, I think.
That's right.
And of course, Taher Qassim has been involved very much from the beginning, and still very active and really leads this wonderful organisation. So we thought, because this year is the Bluecoat's 300th birthday, the building is 300 years old. It's the oldest building in the city centre. We've been an art centre for about a century, so we're the first art centre in the UK. So what we're doing across this year is celebrating that and revisiting some of the artistic triumphs and strands that we've supported over the years. And because Arab Arts, not just the festival, but even before the festival, is a very big part of that history. So we're going to have a little chat, and we've got a sort of script we're going to try and stick to, and some images, but we definitely want your comments as well. So if there's moments where you want to jump in and say, that's not true, or whatever, we'll do that. But basically we're going to not have too much of that, because most of it will be at the end, where we want a proper conversation at the end. So I thought we'd start by looking at what Bluecoat was doing before we even knew that the Liverpool Yemeni Arabic Club existed. And we were very interested in what we're doing in the gallery in terms of artists from the Middle East. So I'm just going to rattle through a few slides by artists who we exhibited and we continue to support. This is a young guy called Bashir Makhoul, who's a Palestinian, who came to this country speaking very little English, and he couldn't finish his degree in fine art in Israel because he was doing paintings that were considered subversive. They were using the colours of the Palestinian flag, which was not recognised, of course. So he came to Liverpool and had a really great time at John Moore's and came to see me and said, I want an exhibition through a translator. And I said, will you come back in a couple of years and when you've finished? And we did do a show. We did several shows with him, and there's another one there coming up. Very powerful work. He's now very high up at University of the Arts in London. He's on the management side, so he's done pretty well for himself. Janan Alani, a London Irish Arabic artist, and we had that great singing earlier on, didn't we, that brought those two cultures together. And Janan's mother was, that's her mother on the right, is Irish, and her father was, I think, Iraqi. So we showed her work. And then a wonderful guy called Walid Sadek from Lebanon, who did a residency in Liverpool. And this was the final exhibition that we did with him. He's back in Beirut now. Zineb Sadira was in a group show, did these wonderful ceramic motifs based on Arab designs. And then Suzanne Hifuna, who's actually got a show in the Whitworth at the moment in Manchester. She's a German Egyptian artist, and we did the first big show of hers. That was obviously after the festival had finished, but it was outside the festival period, which is why I'm showing it. And then the final one here is Khalil Rabah, and that was an installation for the biennial, which, of course, the Bluecoat has been part of since the beginning. But really, the story, I suppose, starts in 1998, when we had two programmers, Dinesh Aliraja, who sadly passed away a couple of years ago, a really brilliant poet. He worked here as our performance programmer, and Claire Owens. And both of them were very committed to multicultural arts and to sort of broadening what we do. Very much what we heard, if you were there for the first part of this launch, what David Gaffney was talking about, the creative case for diversity. We were doing it, way back, and because it was important, and this work was just interesting. Nobody heard oud players in Liverpool, so I think it was Dinesh put the gig on, and because we wanted to attract a local audience that would, be familiar with the culture of Adal Salami, we asked Razak. Is Razak here? He had to go. Okay, but Razak did the translation for the publicity, and that's how we got to know these folks in Lodge Lane. And that's really where it all started, with this gig, which we did in the garden, but then it rained and we had to bring it inside to what was the gallery, which is now down, where the hub is downstairs. And it was a great success, and we said, let's do more of these. So I'm going to hand over to you now, Taher, and you can tell me what you'd been doing up until 1998.
Okay, good evening, everybody. This is the first time I sit here, It's like talking to you. You know, sometimes I'm talking rubbish, sometimes sense, you know, sometimes I don't know. But I'm going to warn you, you know, if you get too bored, then please let me know. And
I'll let you know.
You will? Are you sure?
Yeah, yeah.
Because the audience will know. Okay. The other thing I want to say is that what I'm going to talk about, there are a number of people in this room who were part of what we were doing right from the start. So please say something. I didn't. That was not right. You missed a point there. So please come in. So in this picture, as you see, what is interesting there is that the women who are sitting there, all except the lady with the white dress, these are the founders of the Liverpool Arabic Centre. So I don't know if anyone is here from these ladies.
No.
No?
So you can say what you like now.
Okay, I'm free. I'm free. So what? This was around, I came back to Liverpool to settle with the family in 1995, and so we started these activities in 1996, I think. So these ladies, we used to meet in somebody's house and talk about the ideas, what we are going to do, and so on and so forth. That's how it was started. It's similar to, you tested a number of gigs, exhibition, and we were trying, shall we do this, shall we do that? And then that's how it started. But the most important part was, if you see the drawing there, we started because our own children had something in the school and they wanted their names to change from Amira to Adele or something, or from Ahmed to John, and so on. And we thought, you know, we have to do something. And I think we started to do some work with schools. And the man who's having the oud there, that was one of the famous Yemeni singers who came to Yemen, called Al-Mihdar, he's a poet as well as a singer, very well respected. That was our first, shall I say, event we made in Tox's library. Mm-hmm. So stop there.
And then because it was a success, the Adel Salami event, we decided that we'd do a weekender together.
Yeah.
And just talk a bit about where the name Nadeh Al Bluecoat comes from.
Yeah. We started with the name Yemeni, the Yemeni Arabic Club. And then there was a lot of opposition, comments and saying, no, if you are going to do something Arabic, something has to be inclusive for everybody. So we took that out. Okay, we listened to people. So we changed from Liverpool Yemeni Arabic Club to the Nadi Al-Kull. And Nadi Al-Kull means a club for everybody. So when we started to talk with the Bluecoat, said, why don't we have one Arabic word and one English word? And it became Nadeh Al Bluecoat.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you can see there what the programme was. It was quite a modest programme with just a few events, but very successful. And I wish I had a photograph of the Yemeni tent, because there are people in this room who I know have slept in that tent. We borrowed it from the British Museum.
Yes.
And the condition was that there had to be somebody sleeping in it overnight in case it got vandalised. So I think there was, I can see them, the volunteers at the back. Yeah, we didn't really do a risk assessment. We said, if you want to sleep in it, fine. It's great. You know, Friday night in Liverpool, it's quiet. Anyway, we did it, and it was a great success. Now, obviously, the first festival is 2 years later.
Yeah.
And do you want to perhaps talk a little bit about the conversations that were had and why it took 2 years. I mean, partly around we wanted to raise the funding, but there was also a political dimension to it, wasn't there?
You mean before the real launch?
Yeah.
Before,
well, I'm just about 9/11. I mean, 9/11 happened in the middle of this planning.
Yeah, we negotiated with the Art Council England, saying we would like to plan a proper festival, but we need some time. So, and they agreed. Let's go for that. So we were planning the launch in 2002, and then 9/11 happened, and bang, many people said, we will be a target, we have to call it a day. So I was very disappointed. There were many people who say, well, let's try, and we have a discussion. And I think the consensus was then, if we do not do it now, it will never happen again. And I think that was the best decision, and it was a brave decision we made in 2001.
Absolutely, and we went along with that view, and we felt that as we'd shown with a lot of the art we'd seen, I showed you earlier, that there's different perspectives in art, and we need to be a place that gives a voice for many different communities in this country. So we felt it was important in the wake of 9/11 just to carry on, and we did. And the year later we had the first festival, pretty busy. That's the front courtyard. And I've got quite a few great images here which we can perhaps go through. And there might be some people in the audience that remember these events. So that was the cover of the first brochure. And what you'll see through this presentation is the way that the graphic style has changed for the festival. And it's got sort of more and more interesting, I think. That's quite a bog standard. I hope the guy who did it isn't in the room, actually. But it's not a great design. It's not very inspiring, that brochure. But the event was absolutely inspiring. And as you can see, it was full of life on that opening weekend. And the food was always important.
That's absolutely, yeah.
As we've discovered this evening.
Yeah.
I think, Layla, you're here.
I'm actually wearing the same dress.
You're wearing the same dress. Well, there you go.
I like that. What a coincidence. Yeah.
And I think was it a sort of youth theatre project, possibly? I think it was a theatre project, yeah. And that was in the Bluecoat Garden. So what's nice about this presentation, I hope, is that you'll get a sense of a building in transition. So you'll see how the garden used to be and how it is now and how the building's changed, etc. So it's quite informal, to say the least. I mean, it was very informal. And there'd be stalls in the front courtyard selling stuff. There'd be people dancing, lots of dancing, actually. And these wonderful banners. I can't remember who did them, but they were beautiful sort of batik designs which we suspended from the front of the building.
Yeah, these.
It could well have been. We had an outreach project in Rice Lane. We had a project called Bluecoat Connect, which connected us with communities. And in North Liverpool, in the Rice Lane area, we worked with the City Farm there, and they were great. The kids there, and I think they made it. Yeah, you're right.
The artist was commissioned to work with young people who we used to run an Arabic school, and the Arabic school, we moved from school, from venue to venue to venue, because every time there is a naughty pupil does something, say, goodbye, get out, and then we have to find a new venue. So some of those kids did work with the artist to produce these banners. That was for the launch.
Yeah, and this festival was, as Taher says, funded by the Arts Council. I'm not sure whether we had City Council funding at that time.
No,
we didn't. Okay.
No.
And what's been great over the years, and I think David Gaffney expressed that when he talked about the value of the festival and why the Arts Council support it, is they've been absolutely solid throughout. They've always supported it. This time we had to go every year, didn't we? So right. Basically, it was a Bluecoat project, and we applied for funding for this project. Yeah. But eventually, as we'll come to a bit later, the festival acquires NPO, National Portfolio Organisation status, and it's great news that I heard last week that it's just got 4 more years funding, so that's fantastic. But these images, look at this, next one. Health and safety. That is a real snake. I don't know how we got away with that.
And, but it was there.
It was there.
And the kids loved it.
The kids loved it.
They loved it.
Absolutely. So what you're seeing here, the images are mainly from LAF's own archive, from the Bluecoat archive, and where we've tried to credit the photographer. We haven't managed to with everybody, but this is Sean Halligan, did some really great photographs in 2002. But let's go back to the community and some of the issues that you, as chair of this emerging arts organisation, were facing. Do you want to say a bit about that?
What we tried to do to involve the community as well as to have arts, presenting something from the Arab world. So there was a division in the community itself. Some thought that this is great. Others say, what the hell are you doing? You are spoiling our kids. And there were some very vocal people, especially in some of the mosques. And I remember one time, Kathy, maybe you remember, that there was a crisis. There was a leaflet that was translated, and we were called all kinds of things. So we had to go and explain ourselves why there was the interpretation was not correct, and so on and so forth. Anyway, we overcome that one. So we had to work with that one, and we had to work with the community, as well as to involve other Yemeni community from other cities where we organized events like the one in Greenbank Sports Academy. That was a very significant one. But also in other parts of the city. And I think that was very crucial for the Arabic community then, gradually moving from Yemeni to Arabic community, and to take part and to try it out.
Yeah, and one of the things that we talked about before was there was an educational function for the festival, and you had to sort of define what you were.
Yeah.
But one thing was, what's the Arab world? Because people didn't know. And I think this is one of the important things that you did certainly early on, was to make those definitions.
Yeah.
But then, of course, that also had problems, because you put a map like this out and then you get the Jewish Chronicle saying Israel's not on there, which we did have that issue. And we said, well, it's an Arab festival. And they said, yeah, but you're excluding the Jews. And so it raises all sorts of really interesting issues about identity, about territory. Yeah. And it's not been an easy... Well, certainly early on, it was very difficult, wasn't it? You were getting sort of attacked from...
It's still happening, to be honest. The name itself, Liverpool Arab Arts Festival, say, why Liverpool? And many people who are coming from outside, first question, why Liverpool? Why is it in Liverpool? So that is a question we have to respond to. But also, people were at early stage, they thinking about, is it Arab, is it Middle East, why Turkey is not there, why Israel is not there, why Iran is not there. So I think until a very strong article was written by the Jewish Chronicle, and we had to respond, how to respond to this one. Thanks to Dennis was very quick, to think and said, okay, why Arab? I said, well, this is the definition of the Arab League, so that's as simple as that. And I think he then responded with an article, local article in here.
And of course, what it's done over the years, it's gone beyond
the
Arab League to the Arab diaspora, if you like. Yeah. So Arabs wherever they are in the world.
Yes.
Including Liverpool, of course.
Including Liverpool,
yeah. So some difficult questions had to be sort of answered, and I think we used the word "held your nerve." You carried on, and we did another festival, and we did them every year.
That's right.
That's how it worked.
Yeah.
But if we just move on to some of the sort of detail, if you like, this was the 2004 festival. There's you, the food inspector. I think.
I was
checking the food.
I was having a card say, if this is not healthy, you are going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no Hovis there. Have you noticed? If anyone who wasn't here for the first bit, we had a joke from Alexi Sale about Hovis and pita bread. But this was it was here in the Bluecoat. At that time, most of the activity happened here, and much later it became the Palm House became the family centre. But at that time, this was the sort of main focus for it. And at that time, we did a lot more stuff in the garden, if you remember the old garden as it was.
And we had a name, Brian. We used to call it the Big Saturday.
The Big Saturday, of course it was. Yeah.
So in Liverpool, in the Bluecoat,
the Big Saturday.
Always the Big Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah.
And many things happen on Big Saturday.
Yeah, and we just prayed it didn't rain. And we're pretty fortunate, weren't we?
That's right. Yeah.
And this was a group, I think, from Morocco. Were they called Momo?
Yeah.
And that was quite wild. I remember
the
dancing was wild. We've got a video later on of some amazing dancing from last year.
Yeah.
You might want to leave the room at that point.
I bet, yeah.
Okay, so that was, and then the same year, going back into I mentioned about food being very important. People remember the Cafe Shisha up on Myrtle Parade? And that was quite an exclusive event, wasn't it? Because there was only so many people could fit in the restaurant.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and then as it grew, actually the first year we did have councillors and MPs, didn't we? The first year, but this is, I guess, the Lord Mayor. If anybody can remember him.
Yeah.
But, who was it? Was it Alan Dean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a discussion, again, Nadil Bluecoat, said instead of having the launch in the Bluecoat every year, why don't we have it, change? And that's the first time, we changed it to the Liverpool Arabic Centre.
Yeah. Yeah. And you wanted to talk about the gentleman in the middle who's reading, because he's sadly no longer with us, isn't he?
Passed away, Mr. Warith. He was one of the main supporters both for the Liverpool Arabic Centre as well as for the Liverpool Arts Festival. Yeah. He used to be the chair of the Yemeni Community Association in Liverpool.
Yeah. Okay, and that's Ngozi Ikoku, who's to the right of him, and she was the festival organiser, based here. So this was before, I think, you became independent, wasn't it? Before the festival becomes independent. But what I wanted to just talk about was the breadth of the festival, because it started off quite, low-key and community-oriented, but as time went on, when we got partners like the Philharmonic, and we'll talk about them a bit later on, but it did broaden, didn't it? So it took in film, visual arts, literature became very important. Yeah. But mainly it was sort of dance and music at the beginning. But just to give you an idea, the Bluecoat was still involved doing contemporary art shows. This was called New Ends, Old Beginnings, in the year that we reopened this building. Curated by a curator called November Painter, which is a great name, isn't it? What does she do for the rest of the year? That's what I said. And then, again, the garden was always a sort of focus of activity. And increasingly, we would do things in the Palm House. And this is a 2005 one. And I put this image in because this was at the Al Ghazali Centre, the little image, because it's not a very clear image, so it's quite small. But that was an event, wasn't it?
That was an event.
Do you want to talk about that one?
Oh, my goodness. Well, Shadi was a Qanun player, and he had his band, and they were ready. He's happy to perform in Al-Ghazali, and Shadi had, I think, a couple of beers with him. And then he asked, where the kitchen was. They showed him the kitchen. So while the team were preparing, for the event to take place, he put his 2 cans in the fridge and went, as usual, to prepare for the event. So somebody discovered the big taboo, 2 cans of beers, and it was crisis. And they wanted to stop the performance. They were outraged. Anyway, we had a dialogue, and we overcome that one. And I think we carried, but it was a big issue.
But it was an interesting one so you go from one event at the Philharmonic, major concert hall, to like Al Ghazali Community Centre.
That's right, yeah.
And that was what was great about it, even though there was kids running around. It was like really serious music. It was great music.
Yeah.
But I remember there was a settee in front of the stage, so there was kids looking at you like that. And you were trying to watch the band, and the kids would be like this, and they're running around. It was great.
There was another bit, that people were used to associate, this festival is nothing except belly dance. Yeah. So it took years and years to overcome that image. It's not belly dance. Belly dance is one of the things.
Yeah.
We are many other things. Look what it is.
Yeah, including hip-hop.
Including hip-hop.
This is what you got. Yeah. I think that was like a hip-hop band, wasn't it? I think. Yeah. 2006. Yeah. But just moving on to the venues, that gives you a sense of the sort of range of venues. So you've got, if you like, the mainstream venues at the bottom, Philharmonic, Fact, Palm House and Bluecoat. And then these venues which we might only use once or twice, so the Women's Technology Centre, which I don't think we did much with beyond that, but that was one year when we used it for...
Which one?
That was on the top right, Women's Technology Centre. And then Caroline Afifi giving a talk at the World Museum. We've always been very supportive of museums. Yeah. And then Radio Merseyside were very, very supportive those early years. And we'll see a bit more of them when we go into the park. But let's just carry on with some of them. As I say, it always had that root in the community, didn't it? And that was important for you to maintain that, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was when we dared. You see, that's very important. When we dared to take the tasa and marfa, that's the two drums. So Najib, unfortunately, is not here. Say, we have to go out and drum our drums about the festival, and that's what we did. And the interesting thing is, all the horns of the cars, well done, so I said, we thought, that they were swear or say, what the hell are you doing? No, they were very happy. Yeah. And I think, we were happy too. So, yeah.
Unfortunately, we haven't got any images of the great concerts that happened in the Philharmonic, because you can't take photographs in there. We probably can now, but you couldn't then. So we had Khaled, didn't we? And we had Natasha Atlas. And we had some really great, memorable nights. And it was great that Simon Glynn he took a huge risk, because he never made any money on those things at all.
Yeah.
But would put on quite major concerts, like with the Philharmonic Orchestra, with a singer from Lebanon or whatever, and they were great. In fact, Reem Kalani, who's here again, she did a concert in the main hall, didn't she?
No.
Did she not?
No.
Oh, was it here? Was it? It's here.
Yeah.
Was it here?
No,
St George's. Yeah.
For those who attended Khalid's concert, anybody? What a night. What a night.
It was a rave, wasn't it?
Oh, man. Poor people in the Philharmonic Hall, because they were trying polite, calm them down, and say, they gave up. They gave up. People were just mad with the Algerian flags and singing.
Down the aisle.
Yes. What a night. It was amazing. And then they wanted to continue outside the Philharmonic Hall. So it was a great evening.
But people came from all over the country. And we realised then actually that if we got the offer right, people would travel.
Yeah. So,
that was a great event. So we've got more of the family day in the Palm House here.
Yeah.
So again, importance of partnerships, of working with the different venues, because these things aren't just you go in and put it on the Palm House. There's a lot of people behind the scenes working to make these things happen, and they've just got better and better. It gets hot in there, though, doesn't it?
It is, especially if it is
pretty hot.
Yeah.
Always a lot of stuff for kids to do. Always a lot of stalls. We've got the Arts for Palestine here on the right. Have been in it from the beginning. And then I mentioned the BBC before, and they would have their outside broadcast. Isn't that a great shot?
Now I remember the lady.
Yeah.
Claire Hamilton show.
Oh yeah.
Hey! I thought my hair was, because I was trying to remember the lady, but I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Claire Hamilton show. She was fantastic.
Yeah.
And she just brought that bus to talk with the kids, young, with artists, and people all over the world. How what was the Arab Arts. We forgot to mention, we had 2 years where the BBC had live broadcasts to the whole world from this building.
Yeah.
And I remember they were talking about Yemeni food,
Yes.
And somebody mentioned that this Zurbian is a Kuwaiti food. Mm-hmm. Somebody phoned from Kuwait and said, "This is Yemeni food." But anyway, he was listening. He was listening.
Yeah. And perhaps you could talk a bit about how, I'm not sure whether it was the initial impetus for the festival, but certainly over time it became very much about giving a voice, to a community, particularly in tandem with what was happening in the politics of the world and the sort of negative impact on Arab communities. That's obviously more recent years, but did you feel that the festival had that role, and what has it achieved it? Is it achieving it?
To be honest, in the beginning we were not sure. As the year grows, I remember one time we did. I can't remember what the concert was or the event was. Somebody met me in Lodge Lane, and he was one of the people who said, "What you are doing is rubbish." I said, "This time you did really, really well." So, what has changed? Just out of the blue. Yeah. He said, No, I must admit, you have done very, very well. I think by the year, as the festival grows and the range of events we organize, I think people started to think this is something.
Yeah.
I can't say a lot in here. She started with us, very reluctant, and in this hall, she said a lot of things. And now you are in many different places.
Thanks to you and our last festival.
Talk about poetry, yes.
Yeah.
She's wonderful.
Yeah. I was going to talk about it later, but I think we should probably talk about it now. The Freedom Hour was one of my sort of favourite things we did. And that was because the world was changing so much and things were happening almost on a daily basis in the Middle East around the Arab Spring, etc. And I think it was Eckhart Thiemann, who was our external curator. We brought him in to come and do the programming. Did a really good job, didn't he? And brought some great stuff in. But
right at the last minute.
You remember it?
Right.
Because it wasn't.
Of Arab Spring, it wasn't originally in the program.
No, because
everybody said, we have to do something.
That's right.
And Eckhart came up with this idea.
Yeah.
It was great.
And the idea was, for those of you who weren't around at the time, was that every day in this building at, I don't know, midday or something.
4 o'clock.
Oh, was it? Well, we started off, I think it was first one.
Different times.
That's right, the first time it was
It's midday, and we'd get invite either an artist who was taking part in the festival, or several artists, or a journalist, or somebody who had something interesting perspective on what was happening that week or that day even in the Arab world, to have a freedom hour where they could say what they wanted and have a debate about it. And it was really great. We had Brian Whittaker from The Guardian came and did a talk. We had some of the poets. It was just really great. And the idea was that you just did it spontaneously because things were happening day by day. And I just thought that was so important.
No, it was.
To do that. You could say, what's that got to do with a cultural festival? It's politics. And you get that all the time, that art and politics, all art is political in my view. So you can't separate the two. And it wasn't polemical. It was not people standing up on a saying this is we were having a political position. It wasn't that. It was just about allowing some voices to be heard. So I thought that was really, and that's one of your highlights. I spoiled one of your highlights later on, haven't I?
Yeah.
Never mind. But you can talk about it again when we come to it. Okay, but these more images. Again, these were just to show that breadth of activity, particularly around community involvement. And the children's project, do you remember that one?
That's
on the right.
These are the type of activities we started in schools where I said, we started in Dovedale School but that production was here in this building. that kind of idea we started in schools to produce the Qamariya, because it is a unique Yemeni window. It's called Qamariya. And Samira and Layla and their friends were in Dovedale, and we got a fantastic reception there. So instead of Dad, what are you doing in here? I say, Dad, come on, yes. And my dad is doing this kind of work. So it was, the teachers were wonderful to give us a space in the school to do something. And my wonderful daughters, Samira and Layla and Ifrah, added the clothes and music, and as well as Shawqi and then other people, to go to different schools and just do this voluntary work. So that was very important. Yeah. And then we had one time here the same idea, one of the festivals.
But at the same time, you're building the profile of the program, and it's becoming. I think it was it the first in the UK, the first festival.
It was definitely the first festival.
And it's certainly the longest. It's the one that's been sustained, because it happens every year. And a lot of these festivals sort of sometimes they're a bit sporadic, but this has been every year since then. And I wanted to go through again, talk about the way it all changed. And this will bring back memories, I'm sure, to some of you who were involved in these, and how the graphic identity changed. And we started to integrate more of an Arabic feel to the graphics. So it was always bilingual. It was always translated, but then it sort of changed over time, and I've got great memories of a lot of these events, actually. So that was a weekender. Do you remember we did it as a weekender?
Yeah, it was a weekender.
But it was a long weekender. Because I think we were just a bit knackered by then, weren't we? We thought we can't do another. So let's do it a weekender. But the problem is with the weekender, you end up putting more into the weekend than you'd normally do in a week. So it was a bit mad. And then, not sure about that one on the right, really. But this is where it gets interesting. I really like these designs. And because 2008 was a very important year for the city. It was the capital of culture. And we did that exhibition from New Ends, Old Beginnings. And we were very keen to have a big presence in the festival that year. And it was a great year for the city, as most of you remember who were there. And very much part of that multicultural sort of offer that the city talked about. It talked about World in One City, but it didn't actually do much about it. It was this show that there were real things happening like this, and Africa Oye and Milap and all these great festivals happening. But they get great, these graphics, don't they? That's a mishmash.
Who does the programme?
Different people. Now it's non-conform, are our designers now. But the ones you've seen are different designers over the course. Yeah. So there's about, I suppose a designer might do 2 or 3, and then we get somebody else. But the last 3, I think, have been non-conform.
After.
Or 4, I think, maybe.
It will come.
Yeah. But this is non-conform.
That's non-conform,
and they developed the logo with
a very good story behind it,
on the
which
right.
I'm still waiting, for that story to come out.
What story?
Behind the design.
Tell it.
Is it what?
Is it a secret?
No.
Come on.
It's Johnny. Where is Rachel? Rachel.
Oh, she's gone.
She's gone.
She's gone.
Yeah. It's basically, it's your son.
It is my son.
It was your son.
I don't know anything about it. You know more than I do.
Yeah, of course. We had a lot of discussion about a logo, a brand for the Liverpool Arab Arts Festival. Creatively, he took all the Arabic shapes and geometry and play with them different times, and then we came one day to look at the different models that he presented. Say, I want that one. I don't want anything else.
Well, you said that.
I said that.
Okay.
Say, no, let's discuss it. Okay, let's discuss. So we discussed, but to be honest, in the end, we agreed, that this is a good
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
But the way he did it, that's the story. And
Right. Yeah.
I'm waiting for it to be written.
If you go into any mosque or any Arab or Islamic architecture, basically what he did, he took all of the geometry from there, and this came as almost as an intersection, as a bird, and he kind of like didn't design it; it kind of dropped out. And when you see the collage of the montage, you start with Arabic geometry design, and he builds it up, and he's putting it together. And it's like a baby being born. Do you remember?
Yeah.
It just dropped out.
Yeah.
And we said, we'll take it.
And the board, when we presented it to the board, they just loved it.
Well, you mentioned the board there, and of course what had happened in the intervening years is that you'd become an independent organisation, and we haven't really talked about that, but
That's right.
the background to that, I think, as far as I remember, was that the Arts Council were very happy with the way the festival was going, but they felt it should be Arab-led, and I think that was the right decision. And they encouraged us to do it, and it was not the easiest thing to go from being, in a sense, we were the festival here, with all our infrastructure supporting it, and you were suddenly cast adrift a bit.
Yeah.
Obviously, there was still some support from us, but you want to talk a bit about that, how you built the board and how that's worked as perhaps a different model from the early years. How it is now.
There was a sense of is this a Bluecoat project or is this a Arab Arts Festival project? So what we did, the board that was still under the umbrella of the Bluecoat decided, and the Art Council decided to bring a consultant to look at all the issues, what we have done so far, what model we had, and what is it that we were looking for. And so 2 ladies came from Sussex, I think. They did a very, very good job. And then they presented, the scenario. This is what we think. It's for you to decide how the new Liverpool Arab Arts Festival, should look like.
Yeah.
And then we decide we are going to go independent.
Yeah.
So.
And you recruited a board from where? Just talk about perhaps we've got some of the members here actually.
How many we have? 2, 3, 4. So we have people from Algeria, from Kuwait, from Yemen, from America, from Britain, from who else? We had one from the Philharmonic Hall, from the Bluecoat. So that was the board. Mm. And by the way, we are recruiting. It's on our website. This is a good opportunity. We are looking for more board members.
Because they're tricky things. The organisations that come from a community base. I've seen so many fail, and yet this one's succeeded. And I think obviously partly because you had that buy-in from the Philharmonic and the Bluecoat and the arts community generally. Yeah. But I think you've sort of held it together, and it's amazing that it's very active. And I think all credit to the members here, because when I was on the board, they were and he was doing the film programme, and you all had ideas, and I think you were bringing your own passions to the organisation, which was a lot of boards don't do that. They're sort of
I mean, there was something about we still talk about recruiting specific skill sets that we're missing, but in a lot of ways we were allowed as board members, and maybe after you can say that the same about some of the things you've done, we were allowed to do the things that we wanted to bring. Like, we were encouraged to create things and do things, and we all did. Well, not maybe many of us did anyway. So that's really lovely.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, thanks to the Bluecoat, because I was one time a board member, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. This is nothing for me. They are talking about big projects, and I'm a Shar'abi, little Shar'abi came. But my learning from that process, I learned quite a lot. The debate, the discussion, the openness, And I thought, if I'm going to be, this is how I'm going to run the organization. There was a lot of learning.
Yeah, sure. Well, we've got the image of the last of the graphic design ones. Just want to show you that brings us right up to date. And we thought it would be good, somebody said, well, tell us what your highlights are. So we're going to say a few things now about events that we remember. And the first one, actually, you've just seen the image already, but it's this particular event you enjoyed and was memorable for you, wasn't it? The Sheba Dance Group.
Sheba Dance Group. As we were preparing for our first launch, I thought we have to have some kind of Arabic dance, because it's always dancers from elsewhere, and there was this Sheba Dance Group, young people. They said, we are happy. And one of the dads of two of the boys, he was very supportive. Say, do whatever you want. Anyway, we spent 3 months, and Najib, he loves dancing. And we had another person who was also into dancing. So we trained them, and, some of them we didn't know whether they were walking or dancing, but nonetheless. So we will call it dancing, Sheba Dance Group. So until it was a day for the festival, and said, okay, let's go. We are not going. Why? Said, to go with our Yemeni clothes? There is no way. They will be skidding, people will look at us, and they will call us names, and they will talk on us in the school the other day. No way. So we have to do some negotiation. Najib was very good and said, okay, we'll take you in a taxi, take your Yemeni clothes, don't put them on, let's go to St. George's Hall. That's where the launch was. So when there, Layla was already with Dara, very glittery and glamorous, and there was somebody, another, I think it was Da'd or Yemen, I can't remember, another girl also had their Yemeni clothes. We thought, it's different. Okay, we will go and change. Go and change. So they went to the dressing room and changed and came and danced. And the club, and they did not want to stop. Not only that, they wanted to go out and dance outside. That was brilliant. It was an experience which I am very, very proud of.
Great. And your other one was actually the Freedom Hour, and we haven't got a Freedom Hour image, but we've got Migrant Stories, which is a sort of similar event. Do you want to say anything about that one? This
one was Migrant Stories, where, we're here. It was Alicia who...
Alicia's gone. She was here.
Yeah, it was Alicia who ran that program, and basically to share your experience. On that day, I was too emotional and I burst into tears, talking about my own story. But that was real. So that's how it is.
Dry eye in the house.
Is that what?
There wasn't a dry eye in the house.
Yeah. So.
Just you.
And then, my highlights, I've chosen gallery ones, and these are all ones from here, the exhibitions that we did. Always on at the same time as the festival. And this was called Arabicity by Rose Issa, who's a London-based curator. And this was a fantastic video by Raida Sadeh, hoovering the desert. It's just an amazing piece of work, and it's just relentless. The video goes on all day long, and she's hoovering the desert. A very powerful piece of work. And then the same exhibition, you might remember that. We'd got this new gallery, which had only been open 2 years. It's in this wing. It's the end of this building we're in, and it's the windows that face out onto College Lane. So very public. It's our shop window. And Ayman Balbaki had made this piece. And the issues around migration have always been part of the Middle East experience, but particularly when this happened, it was, and even more so now, it was everyday life. This was the experience for many, many people in the Middle East, and it was just such a powerful piece. And that car was on a little revolve, so it went round, slowly turned. So it's like a car showroom, but it's so memorable. I mean, that piece was...
There's a photo of that in Lime Street.
Yeah.
It traveled
That's right.
from one place
That's right.
to another place. It became one of the legacy of the Liverpool Arab Arts Festival.
Yeah.
It was outside the Bluecoat here in one at some time. It was in Lime Street Station, and I think it was somewhere else. But anyway, I mean, I loved it.
It's a great piece.
People liked it as well.
And then we had a room full of paintings by Shant Afrodisian. And you've only got 9 there, but I think there was about 40 or something, no more than that. 100. Right the way down the wall, it's fantastic. And then another show we did, which was a bit later. It was a photography festival that was also on at the same time as the Arab Arts Festival, called the Look Festival, which still happens every couple of years. And Sarah Jane Parsons, who's our curator then, had a real interest in photography, and she she did a load of research of photography from the Middle East and from the Arab world particularly, and it's called I Exist, but in brackets, in some way. And I can't remember the photographer who said that. He was a very senior photographer, and he said, well, I exist in some way. And that was, in a way, how a lot of photographers would just about getting by with what was happening in there. But this is a great photograph of a sort of, what's it called? A bodybuilder contest. And they'd colour their bodies with this sort of dye. It was amazing, incredible photograph. And this one I think is really powerful, was a young Yemeni artist, I think, wasn't she?
Yeah, and Tawakkul.
Yeah. And, you know, those tensions that were still existing, you know, between the secular and the absolute fundamentalist religious position. And but it's just a brilliant photograph, encapsulates a lot. And in the same show, in that first room, we had Laura El Tantawi, and it was about Tahrir Square. And I think she'd taken these photographs there, or she'd recreated them. But that room, I don't think you remember it, was the walls we painted in this sort of maroon, and it was quite oppressive, and it had sound as well. You had the real sense of what was happening in Egypt at that time. And then finally, I want to just talk a bit about really the continuing relevance of the festival. And I know this is quite an old image, it's from 2003, but all the debates around the veil that we've had over the last few years. And artists have always addressed these, and this is quite an early exhibition. We didn't organise it. It was an organisation called Innova in London, and it was artists addressing the notion of the veil, whether it was veiled women or using it more metaphorically. So this one here, which you might remember that. It's not a very good slide, but the image is by a Russian group called AES, and it's the Statue of Liberty veiled. And it was fine here, but when I think they tried to show it in Walsall Art Gallery, and the council wouldn't let them show it for whatever they thought it was going to. I don't know what they thought it was going to do.
There you are.
Yeah, controversial.
Yeah.
And then just the final slide is again, it's about the young people, about the future of kids in the city, and how important I think the festival's been in tackling some of those issues around racism. This is connected to the Let's Kick Racism Out of Football campaign, and this was on another glorious family day in the park, wasn't it? 2006, and you organised, or somebody organised, a multicultural football tournament.
That's right, yeah.
And I think the World Cup was on, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a city-wide campaign, and said, okay, let's do something about it, and I think it ran very well.
Yeah.
Kids loved it.
Yeah.
And it was a fantastic day as well.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Football.
So that's really the end of our slides, and I mean, we'd like to perhaps get some conversation going from anybody in the audience. We've had some great comments already, but any comments? And we've got a microphone here, so if anyone would like to... I think it's on.
Is it on?
I think it does.
I've just got one query. The graphic design for 2013, it said Liverpool Arab Festival, award-winning festival. What was the award you won?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
What did we win? Can you remember?
We won an award from the Arab British Centre in London.
Oh yeah.
And there were good competition of different organisations, and we tried the first year and we were not successful, and we tried, I think, 2 years later, and we won it at that time. So it was an award with. There was there was some financial payment with that award.
Mhm,
You know, you got the award and then they paid the festival. I can't remember what was the amount, but you know, for us it was not the money. It was it was recognized as something important.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay, we've got a question over here.
I mean, it's not really a question. It's more just, I'm Taher's wife, so I'm looking at it from a slightly different perspective. And it's talking about it over the years, and every year there's been some story behind it, whether it's fighting with some of the local community about not wanting this to happen, or whether it's fighting racism, and I think what's really important, or it's actually, can we get women involved or not? And if you look at the journey that this festival's been on, it's been a continual fight, which he doesn't show here, but it has been pushing the boundaries in different ways. And I think it's really important to recognise that if you look at those pictures of in the Palm House, when we first started, there was no way women were going to dance. There was no way women would do anything except sit at the back if we got them to some of the events. And so it's about that journey and what are the discussions and what are the issues that we're picking up as we go along. And I think it's really important to recognise that. And some of the issues now we're talking about is the culture in our community and how we recognise the richness of the different communities, and actually that conversation between the Middle East, between Islam, between being in England. And I think for me it's just seeing those pictures is recognising the journey we've been on, but actually there's still a really important journey to go, and I think that's really important to highlight.
Yeah. And I think you see that in, I think for a lot of people who are regulars, you know, the family day is it, and they perhaps won't go to anything else. But the fact they go to that, and as you say, it's much more expressive now, isn't it? People feel they can join in from whatever background, and I think you're absolutely right. It's yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
Thank you very much. That will be very interesting review of the history of the Liverpool Arabic Art Festival. I've got comments rather than a question. The progress, or where do we go from here? Because art, music, dance is good in the community as well as the health and well-being as well. And I don't know what is the plan for the future, because my question is to compare other organizations, for example, Malafest and the other, they do regular event during the year. And some of them, I think, Saturday, either music or a film or a dance. And I think end of each Saturday of the month is free, and the rest are paying event during the month or during the week. And I see this will be a good step for engaging with the community. People will attend, as well as understanding the Arab culture, the music, the art. This is only a suggestion. So is there any plan in the future for this? Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to answer
yeah.
that?
Thank you for the comments and suggestion. I'll follow from two things. We got the next 4 years, and we have a plan for that, what we want to do. Otherwise, we would never get that money if there was no plan. So the plan is already there. But what I want to add to that plan, you know, the Art Council will not give you that money if you do not have a clear idea what you want to do. I want to respond to the comments that Anne made. I think part of the journey is that is it the fight that the right word to use? You know, that we want people to engage. We want people to be proud of who they are, where they are. We want people to share what they have, you know, in their own culture. But we want to build an environment where they can feel safe, that they can go to. And that little clip, it took us 15 years to reach to that environment that we created for both men and women can have a good time without being banned. You know, this is not for you. It's taboo, judged, you know. And, you know, we want to work with the community. It is a must. No matter what the difficulties are, we will work with the communities with all these challenges. And I think, yes, there will be challenges. Yes, there will be surprises. Yes, we will carry on. But that's the way this festival has been developed.
Yeah. Oh, we have someone.
Hi.
Okay, one here first.
My question was similar. It was, what is the future for the Arab Arts Festival? But I did want to comment on more of the challenges. As a young Arab woman living in Liverpool, I see it from a different perspective, and a lot of people tell me that, you know, the Arab Arts Festival doesn't represent them. And like you said, you know, it's just all belly dancing, and which obviously I disagree because I'm a big supporter of the Arab Arts Festival. But it's also, we've got to listen to these voices because they are the local Arabic community, and their voices need to be heard, but also they need to also meet halfway. And I don't think it's the Arab Arts Festival's fault. It's more like meeting halfway and building that trust and building bridges, because I feel like as a young Arab woman, I'm always trying to build bridges with non-Arabs, but then I feel like I've lost my own bridge with my own people and my own trust, my own respect. So I feel like, and also the other comment is more like an identity crisis. When you speak to young Arab people, they don't know who they are anymore. And I always tell them, you can be British, you can be Muslim, and you can be Arab. And you can also be an artist, but they don't know that. And I hope that, obviously, how successful the Arab Arts Festival is today, but hopefully in the future we can, tackle these issues, and hopefully with the current issues that's going on in the Middle East, people will need art. People will need to express themselves. So hopefully the Arab Arts Festival can provide that platform.
Thank you. We have two down here, and I think we have one over there as well. And one there.
I was just going to say two things that have been really important. You did the Women's Symposium, which was addressing issues, specifically addressing women's issues and how Arab women feel within the society. And I know Amina was part of that, and you had some other really amazing speakers. You've also brought in disability and addressing disability, which is a very, very big issue around Arab communities, both here and in the Arab world. And I know the project that I'm doing now, It Was Paradise, which was given unlimited funding, is very specifically addressing the issues that are happening in the region, the Arab region, to do with bereavement, migration, refugees, but also making sure that it sits itself very, very specifically in a culture like Liverpool, where a lot of Syrian families have come to Liverpool, and there is huge ongoing migration. So I suppose the thing that I celebrate as an artist who works probably not in the dancing side of arts, but sort of trying to tackle very serious issues, that I feel very proud that the major arts organisations recognise me wanting to partner with you and seeing Liverpool Arab Arts Festival and the Bluecoat, and also Dada Fest, who obviously exists here, as serious people to deal with these issues. And so I think there's a huge future in how Liverpool Arab Arts can make things better for the younger generation, and for the younger generation who don't feel they have a voice, who feel that they sit in this very strange place between no longer traditionally from the communities that their families originally came to Liverpool from, but also what's their identity now as British Arabs. So I feel really proud that I'm able to sit my project here and be part and supported by you. So I'm very, very grateful.
Thank you.
I just wanted to highlight, Amina just mentioned about how possibly you have resistance from the community in terms of what is considered Arabic or what is not considered Arabic, and the division you might feel by being either you betraying your culture or betraying your identity. If you were to open up maybe to a more Western way, bring in more women. The fact, I came from Beirut and I'm Christian Lebanese, half Greek, but I grew up in Lebanon, I grew up in the war and came to England, studied architecture, so I'm an architect practicing. And I do believe that identity really is not about where you come from, or is not about your religion either. Identity is very personal, and therefore, and it's a question for every person. I must believe that even the Westerners question their identity, where do they belong, where are you going, where are you coming. But maybe it becomes more of a focus for the people who have left their culture or left their countries. It becomes more the issue because there's no other way to pin up why am I feeling that way. And I believe that most of the time we feel that way because the crisis of identity is basically cross culture, is cross gender, cross ethnicity, and cross basically, your direction in life. So, and by questioning, I think it's a healthy thing, and I don't think there should be people who try possibly to push that towards a question what is not Arabic. I come from Lebanon. We are torn between what our identity is in terms of are we Arabic or are we Phoenicians. So I have a friend of mine who's grew up in Beirut, went to the Lycée Français, speaks perfect French, Canadian, but she thinks she's very much Arabic. And we do have a lot of debate, her and I. And I say, I'm Lebanese. She tells me, no, you're Arabic. I say, why? How do you precisely tell me what my identity is? So I think identity is really personal, how you grow up, what is your culture at home. So I don't think anyone can tell anyone you're not Arabic enough or you are taken away from the community, because I do believe this is very personal. So that's my comment.
This gentleman here.
And there.
Well, first of all, congratulations for managing to get 4 years of funding out of the Arts Council and so on. That's very difficult to do. That must have been a bloody big form that you filled in.
This is a big form.
In my experience, things like that are very hard to do. Now, I'm Irish, as you can probably hear from my name, but I have the misfortune of coming from Northern Ireland. And it was lovely to hear my language being spoken before, being sung actually, because being a Protestant in Northern Ireland means I never learnt my own language. I'm not allowed to learn my own language. You go to a Protestant school, Catholics who speak Irish go to Catholic school. So the two communities are totally and utterly polarised after 50 years of problems. But it goes back even further than that. So the difficult thing that you have to face, I think, over the next 4 years, is to try and get around that problem. And instead of just maybe focusing entirely on Liverpool, like you mentioned before, trying to get out into the sticks, into those weird places like the Costa del Wigan, or Halton, or St Helens and Halton. Those are the kind of places, I think, where you're going to find real challenges and where you're going to think, where people who are living there are going to think, what is going on? Why are these people trying to tell us about Arab culture? And I think it's very important at what you do, because we need to know and learn, especially people in Britain, a little funny island race that tried to conquer the whole world, but somehow or other they fell flat on their face in a sense this last few decades. But it's important that other people learn about what you're trying to do here, learn about your language, your culture, so they can analyse their own language, their own culture, and see where they can meet. They can maybe meet halfway. They might even be able to meet further than that and realise that we're all the same species. We've got lots and lots of things in common. And I've seen some of this wonderful... I like your artwork as well, by the way. I've seen some of this stuff here that really has amazed me in many ways. I've been a little kind of a satellite visiting this place periodically down the years. So I've seen something of what you've done before. And I've seen it growing. My friend here comes along quite regularly. So I've seen it improve over the years. And I just can't wait to see what you're going to do over the next 4 years. But I do hope that going into schools, educating children about Arab culture and the sort of things that you get up to, so that they don't just get a picture of what's happening in the Arab world from TV, from radio, from cultural media and so on, but they get it from real people that have lived in those countries.
Great.
And experienced what it's like. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think this might have to be the final comment, I'm afraid, because we're nearly at 9:30. So, Anahid.
I'll try to be worthy of that. I wanted to say, if you take all of the comments that have gone on tonight, they put together a picture of the various issues that the festival confronts that maybe haven't all been articulated in one shot, so I'm going to try. I may not succeed, but I will try. I grew up like Amina. I'm Armenian, I'm not Arab, but I have always felt like I'm either too many things or not enough things or not in the right place at the right, So I think that's a very common experience now because of globalization, because people move, because there's so much migration, because there's the need for so much migration, because there's so much war, so much poverty. So there's lots of people who have that experience. It's no longer uncommon. There was a time when it was uncommon, and it is no longer uncommon. And that's an important thing to remember. But the other thing is that to hold together the needs of a local community with the need to maintain some kind of relatively high artistic standards, and I think the festival does have quite high standards. Those things can clash very, very, very easily. Because what's expected in the artistic world is often very different from what's expected by a local community, and the fact that we haven't had more clashes seems to me to be a testament to actually the way the festival was founded, and the fact that it's always been a kind of co-project of the community and arts organizations. It's never been one or the other. It's always been both of those things, and that's been able to continue with as few flare-ups of these issues as there have been is extraordinary. I've never seen another project like it, and I've worked on a number of them in different countries. This is really an unusual accomplishment, and I say that to the two of you, in particular, to the early founders, that because I think it's what you laid the groundwork for from the beginning that has made it possible to move forward in this way. I think if you had done things even slightly differently, we might not be having this conversation. So, at the very least, let's all thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Well, on those very kind words, we will have to end it, I'm afraid. And it's been a great evening, and the whole thing, not just this bit, but the bit before, was a fantastic launch for the festival. Come along tomorrow, Lodge Lane.
Yeah.
Is that right? What time?
It's 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And take the brochure if you haven't got it, because there's lots of great stuff happening. And I'd like to thank all of you and your great questions and comments. So
I did not expect that, Brian.
What?
I thought people will be bored, with our conversation. So they've said,
you've seen the images. You can't argue with them. Anyway, so thank you all very much. And again, a big round of applause for our chairman here.